Welcome to the Goats, where we go deeper than just the splits in training and into the minds and philosophies of the world's best trail and endurance athletes to find out what they can teach us about this little thing that we call life. I hope you enjoy. Today we are joined by none other than Liam McKenzie. He is a father, a coach, an athlete. He is a two-time Asian Pacific Spartan champion, as well as has podiumed and won many different trail races within the Australian and New Zealand scene. Recently, he has done a little bit of a circuit down in Korea and Japan in their sky running series, and we have some stories and some adventures through that we're going to go through. But today, we want to step aside from the paces, from the workouts, from the outcomes, the victories, and we want to dive a little bit deeper into the mindset of Liam. We're going to go deeper into who he was as a kid and how his mindset towards performance and sport has shifted over time. Today, a big thing that we focus on is how more isn't always more, and how Liam was able to learn through the mountains that balance is one of the most important things for him within his life to find happiness and fulfillment. So if you're someone that struggles to, put the brakes on sometimes and, listen to your body and find out when is the right time to push and when is the right time to slow down, then I think you're going to get a lot from today's conversation, because me and Liam go into, that more isn't always more and how sometimes we need to slow down in order to get more out of ourselves. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Liam McKenzie. Unreal. We're recording. Well, welcome, guys. I am sitting here with my brother across the other side of the ocean right now in New Zealand. Liam, how are we doing?
Excited. Yeah, excited to be having a chat to you formally. We have plenty of chats, offline, but it's good to have a chat and, probably dive a little bit deeper into my story. But yeah, I'm doing well. So loving living over here.
Yeah, man. I mean, like you said, we used to hang out so much, out in Queensland, and now we're overseas. And so, being able to catch up like this, I'm sure we're going to be able to dive into some fun things today, which I'm excited about. But for the people who maybe don't know you as well, share a couple things about you right now. Liam McKenzie, where are you? What you doing? What's going on?
Cool. I'm 36, I believe. I think after 30, you don't count as much, but yeah, about 36. I was having a good think about how I defined myself this morning on my run, and I'd just say an athlete that enjoys, I guess, multiple different disciplines outside. So, which brought us across to Wanaka. So yeah, lucky enough to live in an area that can facilitate that. So. That's pretty much me, an athlete, enjoy outside, and a dad first and foremost.
Yeah, unreal. And a couple pretty amazing accomplishments under the belt, and I'm sure we're gonna get to some of those as we kind of go through your journey and through your story. But I guess the first place, man, is like, you've got this identity in this, who Liam is right now, but obviously that's come from somewhere, right? And so, tell us a little bit of like, who was 4-year-old, 5-year-old, 8-year-old Liam? What was his thoughts? How did he see the world? What was going on in your head, back then?
So I would say my memory's not amazing, especially long term. But through stories and stuff of from my parents and looking back on photos and stuff like that, definitely been the energetic child from the start, especially compared to my brother and sister. So I'll take that title. But yeah, from day dot, always enjoyed kind of being outdoors, and I look back at the photos of spending time outside. Funnily enough, parents had a place in the Blue Mountains, so when I was a little bit younger, we were there, where you are now, which is kind of full circle. But yeah, just a lot of time outside. Love the outdoors from an early age. And I think that's just kind of where I guess the roots started growing into the ground, and yeah, just found my love for the outdoors and then putting that energy into some time outside as well.
What were the traits that, like, as a kid, what were the traits that really stuck out to you, which allowed you and pushed you in this direction of like performance and sport?
I think like when we were growing up, it was great because there wasn't a lot of pressure, I guess, under performance and times and stuff like that. It felt like quite free flowing. We all did, or I did a lot of multidiscipline sports as well when I grew up, and I think growing up in that environment made it really fun. And I think, having a little bit of that competitive nature as well, like allowed me to lean a little bit deeper into it. But yeah, also, the support of my parents just to kind of do what I wanted to do as well was great. So I think, yeah, just just the environment that we grew up in, and it was just quite a relaxed environment, but also had a lot of opportunity as well. So yeah, very grateful for that.
Mm. Was there any struggles that you had, as a teenager, as a kid, kind of growing up, moving through the world?
Yeah, so I guess from like an early age, as once I went into schooling, definitely struggled in terms of yeah, maybe just like putting my energy into schooling. It was quite hyperactive at school, and lucky for me, all the schools I went to had a lot of sport as well. So it was a good way to balance out that school and exercise. But yeah, definitely had some challenges at school. If it was something I was interested in, it was all good. If it was something I wasn't as interested in, struggled through it. So yeah, I guess from an early age, we realized, yeah, just had to kind of put the energy into the stuff that yeah I wanted to do, and had the support of my parents, so which was good.
Mm. Do you think that was like part of the reason that's driven you into putting so much energy into, being outside, being in the mountains, running, performing? Do you think that like kind of struggle with school and stuff is what pushed you in that direction?
Yeah, I think for sure. I think it was an outlet for me from an early age, and always think back to that. And now as well, it being an outlet. But yeah, definitely back in the day, probably not even realizing it. It was my outlet to, yeah, let go of some of that energy, maybe some of that frustration as well. Being a little bit younger and maybe not knowing how to deal with those emotions as well and how to regulate those emotions. So definitely was a tool that I used from an early age. And looking back on it as well, probably like yeah, my best periods of school lined up pretty well with yeah when I was doing well in sport as well.
Mm. Like, if there was any other kids around that age who are maybe going through that same issue of struggling with the balance of school and life and work and these new things coming on, is there anything that you would recommend to them to start trying or doing to help them balance that out? Even maybe kids who similar had that ADHD kind of
Mm.
balances. What would you tell them?
Yeah, I would say like lean into it as well, and don't be afraid to try different things as well. Like I think I played nearly every sport that existed when I was younger, from like t-ball through to basketball, all these multiple different sports, and kind of found a love for some, and maybe yeah, maybe but maybe not so much for others as well. So kind of lean into that, take the opportunities as well. So if you do have the opportunity to try something different, or go and do something you hadn't done before, definitely take that opportunity, because yeah, it might be a way that you can kind of channel that energy, and it might be something you never thought about doing as well. So I think a lot of the sports that I did put a lot of time into when I was younger probably pushed me into yeah the area that I am now, and a lot of the sports that I've probably had success with as well.
Hmm. So would you say like a big part of those years of just development and that variety of sport has
Mm.
caused you to be this kind of more well-balanced athlete and enjoy multidisciplinary kind of adventure?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like I, first and foremost love running, but I think if I was only a runner, I might get a little bit bored as well. So I think, growing up and doing sports such as gymnastics and, running and, we did a little bit of rock climbing and all these things where we're using all our body parts as well. It definitely, yeah, has shaped the opportunities and ventures I've got to go on, as well as probably leaning heavier into the type of runs I go on, whether it be racing or training. So I think yeah, a lot of those sports and skills and definitely have lent into kind of yeah the spot I am now, and probably the opportunities I've got to yeah experience along the way.
Yeah, and it's cool too because as someone who knows you too, I've gotten to see this transition like from when I first met you. From my understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but you were a little bit more of like a high intensity,
Yeah.
kind of you did F45 and that kind
Mm.
of stuff, and you had this life of, being in the bush before,
Mm.
maybe came away from it a little bit,
Yep.
and
Yep.
then had found that when you started doing Spartan and stuff. Can you tell us a
Mm,
little bit
mm.
more about, that transition for you?
Yeah, I think you're pretty spot on there. And I think I like a lot of this, like when I look back on it, a lot of the sports, like the soccer and the cross country and stuff like that, like I was probably and athletics, putting a lot of time on my feet at that point. But I think, yeah, I definitely went through a transitional phase. Like I had a lot of injuries growing up as well. So probably pushing that limit multiple times, end up with like a lot of breaks and accidents and stuff like that. So the big switch probably would have been after a big ankle injury. I kind of went into the shorter stuff. Stopped playing soccer due to just the amount of ankle agility that was involved in it, and kind of lent a little bit heavier into that functional fitness, like you said, like the F45 and probably the shorter running side of things. Like probably had a few years of just doing like that 5 kilometer distance, no longer than 20, 30 kilometers per week. And then just that really like high intensity, high energy kind of workout. So I think maybe due to the injury that led me down that phase, but it also kind of like opened probably my eyes up to like a different form of training. Like I never really was a sprinter when I was younger. It was all the longer discipline stuff. So definitely put a little bit more time into the 5K stuff, which kind of led into the multidiscipline obstacle course racing, like you said, where we kind of met. So it was kind of like all those things coming together at the right time to venture into a sport like that, and quickly realised that the assets that I'd built over the years since I was young from gymnastics and running and all that favoured quite well for a sport like that.
And to go a little bit deeper, because like this is kind of, we're at the point now where I guess you start to get into what you might call an elite or a more competitive atmosphere of the F45s and then some competitions and then Spartans and starting to do well in there. Were you always of the mindset of like, hey, I want to compete, I want to do well in these? Or was it something that just kind of started happening as you invested time into it?
Yeah, that's actually a great question, and probably something I haven't really thought about too much. I think it's probably a mix between both, like always having that competitive nature, like you always chase that podium finish. I think, especially if you've been in a sport like athletics from a young age, feel like you're on the pedestal a little bit. So I think there's definitely a little bit of that, but it was also, leaning into the obstacle course racing. It was a whole new kind of discipline for me and a whole different type of training, and it was. Yeah, more so what I could see how far I could go in the sport as well. Around that period where I got into it, it was probably the most competitive it was in Australia and probably worldwide as well. So it was an exciting phase that I probably took what I was doing previously maybe a little bit more serious, because it seemed like there was not really a dangling carrot, but there was like something that I could see how far I could achieve in the sport against some very very high level athletes. So
And that's obviously like a pretty motivating driver when you realize that potential to be able to maybe compete on this level and see what
mm,
kind of rewards and benefits you can reap from it. But I guess like when you, like for people listening who maybe, don't have that dangling carrot there, is there any kind of like mentality that you found really helped motivate you outside of like winning the race or possibly competing with these top athletes? Was there any other like mental space that helped you get up every morning and train and
mm,
and be your best?
yeah. Yeah, I think like for me personally, like having that outlet of that exercise has always been a big thing for me. It's kind of like my therapy. I get up in the morning. I'm the type of person that does enjoy routine as well. So having that routine and a bit of structure and something to work towards, like an event, was really good for me as well. And I think, being a coach as well, you do see that favors a lot of other people as well. Having that, I guess, not so much purpose, but there is something that you are working towards. And it's just like part of your journey, right? So I remember when I first got into the obstacle course racing, it was like a 5 kilometer event. And I was like, cool, that's going to be my distance. My training kind of lines up for that side of things. And each and every single race, racing against guys like yourself, like opened up, my mind to, maybe I can do a longer distance, like the 10 kilometer, and progress up to, the 21 kilometer, which, in an obstacle course race is, like two plus hours. So for someone that was doing 30-minute runs, to work up to that and build, like a good base towards that, I think, yeah, it kind of gives structure to what you're doing, but also kind of gives you that progression. So, which I think is important in terms of like, athletic development, but also in terms of, just like seeing what you can do as well. So,
That's a good one there, right? Where you talk about the development of, it's almost like instead of picking what's my favorite distance, it's about working through the distances, right? Starting where you're capable of, right? And just kind of taking those steps. And when you do that, like you said at the starting, you were of that mindset of no, 5K is my distance, that's all I can do. But as you started developing fitness in that area, it opened up the door to the next distance or the next level or the next big adventure, right?
yeah, absolutely.
And I love when you say that too, because it just brings me back to this memory of, and if Brendan Hunt is ever listening to this one, of we're going out to one of these Spartan races in, I think it's like Picton or something like that. And you were like one of the up and coming guns in Spartan who all of a sudden is now starting to win some races. And, Hunt's been a legend of OCR, for a couple years now. I was just getting in the mix too. And we were going out to this race, and we were jumping up to the 20K, and it was like one of your first races in like the 20K distance. And I remember I think we were on your phone with you or something like that in the kitchen
Yeah.
at like Hunt's place. And
Yes,
having like
yes.
some banter back and forth. And we're like,
Yeah,
20K, you don't know how to run 20K in your legs. Like, what do you?
yeah, and you guys were probably pretty true as well. Like I do remember, yeah, if it was that Picton race, like I do remember I went into that race with like no nutrition. I think I was actually sitting in second or third or somewhere along that, and basically the last 3 kilometers cramped and like shuffled it in. So that was a huge learning curve for me. I loved the mental aspect of it, but it was also like, oh wow, you've got a lot of room to grow in this discipline and this distance, and I think like that started to lean me more in towards the endurance space as well again.
Yeah, no. And then, from there, it was, magic. We got to spend a bunch of years competing together, being friends, training together side by side, which was awesome. And I guess the next thing too is in this time now, because I'd imagine it's somewhere around here. Did you ever have like a breakthrough moment? A thing, something in your mind that switched from a certain moment where you're like, you know what, I can do this, or this makes sense, or this is, what I want to do. Was there anything that's ever really stood out to you as that shining moment for you?
Funnily enough, you say that. So it was probably around the 2019 period, and I was probably pretty heavy into the Spartan race side of things. And there was like a Spartan professional team, and all things were going well. And I remember coming across to New Zealand, Auckland, on the North Island, with my partner Beck, and we raced there, and we both did well and stuff like that. And then we're like, oh, let's go to the South Island and explore. So this is like post race. Came here for about 10 days, and it was probably around the August period, which over here we do get quite a lot of snow. And I just remember just absolutely loving running uphill. Like it was like every day for me running up, like trying to get to Ben Lomond, which at the time was covered in snow and like knee deep snow from the saddle, was just like, it just like blew my mind how much I was enjoying it, but also like what was on offer as well. So I think over like, I don't know, I could be wrong, but over that week, I think I climbed probably the most I've ever climbed in a week, close to like 8 to 10,000 meters of vertical ascent. And I was like, oh wow, like I'm really enjoying running uphill. Like I feel good, I feel strong. It was like starting to line up with a few of the segments over here, and I think from that point, I realized that mountain running and spending time in the mountains and just how powerful that type of training was going to be towards the OCR as well, which kind of led into heading to China for the APAC champs and winning that race, which was probably one of my most successful obstacle course races. I think that was a defining period in my life, and just realizing what the mountains had to offer. And yeah, it's just been endless since then. Like there's never one time I'm going for a run in the mountains that I regret. So
Yeah. So what? And that's all Chongli, our first honeymoon vacation together. Trying to navigate China, which was hectic at that point. I don't know if it's
it's still
changed.
one of the best trips of my life. I
Oh
still
yeah.
Still one of the best trips of my life. Yeah, yeah.
Oh
That was a
man,
defining moment too. Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, that was our breakthrough moment for our friendship, eh? For sure.
100%. Yeah.
Um, what was changing then in your head? Like
Mm,
because this has now become something that is like it's what makes Liam Liam now, right?
mm,
Mountains, like
mm.
being out in nature, like that kind of thing. So like what was changing in your brain, your chemistry when you started running uphill and you're like, wow, like this, like what was the experiences that you were feeling that just got you so driven and attached to it?
I think, to be honest, like from a young age and having a lot of races timed, and even like during that period of Spartan race, having stuff timed, like that whole week, I was quite new to the mountain running side of things, and I had no real idea of times and paces and stuff like that. It was just more built off effort, and it just had an overwhelming sense of, feeling good out there as well, and finishing the run and feeling really good. So it kind of opened up, yeah, like a whole new space for me. Like I wasn't really chasing kilometers. I wasn't really chasing elevation. I just remember looking back on it and being surprised what I'd done maybe a few months post that trip. But I think for me, it just opened up a whole new world, and that world was originally not derived around performance. It was just more so, oh wow, look what I get to experience with my own two legs. Like, I remember those days of not seeing one person on Ben Lomond, and anyone that's been to Queenstown probably knows it's one of the most hiked spots in New Zealand. So not seeing anyone, a little bit of snow, like probably hadn't spent much time running in the snow as well. So it just opened up all these new adventures and opportunities. And I think from that day, it just changed my mind into kind of where I wanted to, spend a lot of my life, and again, see what I could achieve in that space as well.
It's like a shift from an extrinsic motivator to like a purely intrinsic motivator, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's like we all know, like, I mean, for most people know, right? Like when you have something that intrinsically motivates you, that's something that's gonna stick, right? And it's gonna last. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So we got to this point, Spartan, you're starting to love the uphills, and then Spartan starts,
Mm, mm, yeah.
changing. It's you're still competing in it a little bit, but the dynamic of Spartan starts to change, and then now your new love for mountains starts to, get even stronger.
Mm.
What's happening now? What's going through your mind?
I think, yeah, so building off, I would probably say the last big pinnacle race for me was after that block in, or that holiday in Queenstown, and we went to China together, and still that Spartan race was 2,000 plus meters over 20 kilometers, and again that was just like another nail in the coffin is probably the wrong way to describe it, but like another notch on the belt where, oh cool, I'm really enjoying running up these steep inclines. Like, this is amazing. Let's see kind of what we can explore in this space. And yeah, the dynamic of the obstacle course racing started to change a little bit. So I think that's where it opened up my mind and my headspace. And I think like that sport clashed a lot with trail runners as well at the time as well. So it was like, oh, let's see what we can kind of do in the trails, which, we'd already been spending a lot of time, training in the trails and scrambling up rocks and having all these amazing adventures. It was just kind of like the next step in, I guess my journey, maybe a little bit of progression as well, to kind of see, how I would stack up in that, and, see how the training might differ to what we were doing at the time as well. So, yeah, I just feel like it was another step in the journey, and lined up really nicely with kind of the adventures and the training and stuff we'd been doing at that time for obstacle course racing as well.
Yeah. And then yeah, getting into the trail scene, I guess, a little bit here and there, because I guess, looking at some of the, results and races that you've done here, it looks like that 2022, you did a race or two, but then 2023, it was almost like, boom, we're trail
Mm.
running at this
Yeah,
point. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so I think like the first couple of races, like gave me a nice little taste for it and stuff like that, and probably quickly realized that, yeah, maybe just had to be a little bit more specific in terms of the training for the races as well. So I was quite free with the training I was doing, maybe around the obstacle course period of like, a bit of rock climbing. I don't know, anywhere from maybe 50 to 70 kilometers per week. Wasn't really chasing, too many specific sessions and stuff like that, and then realized quickly, to do well, especially on a national level in Australia, and there's some great runners there that probably just had to put a little bit more time and emphasis into some sessions for the trail running side of things as well. So although the training did correlate quite nicely, I probably lent a little bit heavier into the structure, I guess, behind the training and into the trail running as well.
Yeah. And I guess going into the, I have an idea of what you're going to say is like maybe the downfall of what's
Mm,
happened, but what would you say in this like whole process of getting to where you are now and, feeling this happiness and success and where you are location wise in the world,
mm,
where you are in your, job and stuff like that? What were the dark sides of this? Was it
mm.
a specific event that happened? Was it some of the balance between, trying to chase this goal and what are the repercussions of that? What were the tough points of this whole thing for you?
Yeah, definitely a big question, and one I think about all the time, and I still think about it on a daily basis now. I probably assess that more so than ever. And I think one, when you maybe taste a little bit of success, it starts to, maybe change a bit of brain chemistry that you need to do more. And you need to do more to win the race or to get a little bit faster and stuff like that as well. So I probably think my progression into the obstacle course racing was shorter and probably more successful than into the trail running side of things. Like there was a lot deeper fields in the trail running, so I did realize that I had to kind of, maybe push myself a little bit more in training to get a higher level of performance. I would say during that period, there was that I probably wouldn't be able to tell you a time that I wasn't overtraining, and I think that was probably the downside of having. I am diagnosed with ADHD, and I think a lot of that time that I do utilize in the outdoors to help with the mental health side of things, although positive for dealing with the headspace, can be a little bit destructive because it's like more, do more. I never really had rest days. It was all about the training hard. Probably like it would be hard around that period on a national level to say that people weren't training harder than me. And I think that was my mindset as well. Like if I do the most in training, I will perform, the best on the day as well. And I think that, led down the path of a lot of injuries, like a lot of soft tissue injuries and, 1 or 2 weeks off, like only because the physio told me, and then I'd be straight back into training. And I think like when I look back on that period from a analysis point as well, like there was probably a fast progression, but I don't know if I progressed much further than, over the couple of years. It kind of stayed quite stagnant. Yes, there was good results, but it wasn't like I was taking that next level in my training, and that probably comes down to not listening to the body. And in the end, like you said, ended up with like quite a serious injury, which actually ended up being 2.5 stress fractures. So one being in the sacrum, one being healed in my L4 on my spine, which I don't even understand how I had that, could still run, and it was healed, and then one forming in the pubis area as well. So I remember my last race, definitely a pinnacle moment in, I guess my career, where there was Brisbane Trail Ultra, wanted to do really well there and actually had a really good race, maybe broke down a little bit in the end, but I couldn't walk after that race. And that was the only reason why I stopped running, because I couldn't walk. Not I was getting the warning signs. It was, I physically cannot walk, not being in pain right now, which is crazy to think about, because I had so many signs of like sore back and sore glute and all this stuff coming up. And I just like, it's probably the con of the endurance space. Like you do need a strong mindset, and a lot of the time you just park that stuff behind you because, you have put yourself in some difficult times in training and races and stuff like that. And I wouldn't say I ever thought about it as a sign of weakness, but it was just more so, that's just something I have to deal with. In my training, everyone has niggles. I'd put it off as niggles where it was, a lot more serious. So
If you could go back to those moments now, knowing what you know now, how would you handle those moments differently?
oh wow, yeah, completely different. Again, like I was stacking events back to back, and they're all like sub ultra events, but they were still around 2 hour races. Still running 100+ kilometers per week with like a lot of load through the body on the uphills and downhills, and like I said, there was no real rest days. So rest days would be like an easy jog. Oh, I'm just going to go for an easy jog. That's my rest day. So I think looking back on that period now, I had those warning signs early. And if I could give anyone advice, it's like if that stuff starts to pop up, it's like your body giving you signs that, something's not quite right. And just take a day or two's rest. And if it's still not good, take a little bit extra time. And I think back on that period, if I'd just taken 2 weeks off running, because they were quite serious, signs I was getting from my body, like really sore backs and, hobbling around a little bit. And if I could just, go back in time or give anyone some advice, it'd be like, take that time off. Just let your body reset. Your body will tell you when you're good to go. Again, I've learnt so much about the sleep and the eating and the fueling and all that side of things. But I had those warning signs and I pushed through them for months. It wasn't just like I pushed through for a week. It was like months and months, and it was stacking up, getting worse and worse. And in the end, did break my body. And it was probably the most valuable lesson I'd ever learnt was probably patience and listening to my body.
And it sounds like too, what you're saying is like, even though you were pushing through it, you weren't actually gaining as much performance either as you thought you would have, right?
Yeah,
in that
absolutely.
time. So it's like, hurting yourself, not really gaining the performance that you wanted to see out of it. It's like, take the time, right? Like, because 2-3 days is not gonna ruin your fitness.
I think like if I'm to be completely honest as well, like having, smaller sponsors at the time, and trying to chase, something more in terms of like a semi-professional running career, you do push yourself a lot. And I wouldn't even say, I'd say the external pressure wasn't quite there. Yes, I'd be getting asked to do the race through the event and stuff like that, but in the end, it was all intrinsic. Like I'm putting all this pressure on myself to, you have to be the best now, and you have to do the most, and like this is normal just to be pushing through this stuff now. So I had all those signs, but I think like the pressure during that period that I was putting on myself to, the dream of being a professional runner, it basically broke me in the end. Yeah. At that point.
Yeah, and when this injury happened, the mental space must have taken a little bit of hit. What was going on through that? Like, did you have doubt in your mind? Were you questioning, what you're doing with running? Like, what was when that happened and you started to get answers as to what was going on? What was going on through the head? How did you? Because it looked like you were still trying to train and still trying to do as much stuff. How are you dealing with that?
Yeah, so I guess like with the injuries that I had, and like I've always been one to, put a bit of time into looking after the body. But I remember finishing that race, having the high of, doing well, but also probably just parking the fact that my back and my hip and all that was really sore. So it took a long time for me to get some answers. So I was seeking help after that, and basically I got to the point where I went for an hour run, and then my body just like I was in excruciating pain, and I just had to walk it to the car, which like I don't think I've ever had to do apart from that time in my life. And it took a long time to get some answers, and a lot of physiotherapists just saying, oh, it's a sore back, do some needling, rah rah. So I was doing all that stuff. Wasn't running at the time because my body wasn't allowing me, but I think the headspace from going of such a high of not just like performing, but also just being able to train 10, 15 hours a week, and having that outlet, and having, just like how good it feels to go for a run, having that all like pulled away. And, like it felt like it was my identity, and it felt like, it was my life. Once I had the answers of the stress fracture, and, I was on the crutches, and, you've got at least 12 weeks of not doing really anything, maybe apart from, swimming with a pool boy in a couple of weeks. Like, yeah, the mental space of that was like horrible. And again, if I could give any advice, it would just be like, seek some help to have a conversation around that period of time, of people that maybe have been through it before, or a sports psychologist, because I just like bottled it up a lot, and, kind of felt a little bit embarrassed about the whole situation as well, that I'd led myself to that point, because I was still coaching, and if any of my athletes were giving me that feedback, I just would have like been like, no, we're not running, we're taking a week off. But for me, I just pushed through that and ignored all the warning signs, and yeah, just paid the ultimate price, to be honest. But I try and look at it from a positive aspect and say, if that had not happened to me at that point, it would have happened at some point. So like I learned that lesson at that point, and I've changed a lot of my modalities, and I listen to my body a lot more than ever. And again, it's a little bit embarrassing to say that in my mid 30s that it took me that long, but I think sometimes these things happen for a reason, and it was probably my time that something catastrophic had to happen for me to actually take a step back, and yeah, maybe it made me a better athlete, maybe it made me a better coach as well. So
Yeah. Sometimes we need those falls to pick ourselves back up, eh?
mm,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Can't gain control without losing control sometimes.
Yeah.
No, that's yeah. I mean, that's awesome, and you can tell too. Like obviously, as someone who gets to watch you from the sidelines a little bit, you can see the difference in your training and your approach to everything from 2 years ago, and you can tell you have this much more focused on longevity, right, in the
Yeah.
future, and every session doesn't have to be hard, right?
Mm, mm.
And I think we can vouch, I think you could vouch for yourself and say that your performance is definitely improving, taking
Yeah.
that notch down in effort in some of your sessions still, right?
Abs- Absolutely, yeah. And I think, just to touch on coming over here, like it has allowed me to lean a little bit deeper into those spaces of, cross training where it's like skiing in winter. And like, to be honest, I'd just come back from, like a big couple of months overseas competing, under the Merrill team and sky running, and, was training really well, doing really well. But I think the physical load and the mental load that I went through over that period of time, I couldn't wait to come home and just chuck on the skis and have a bit of an off season. So I think moving over here has allowed me to do that. And not saying you can't do that in Australia, but for me, having those additional outlets, and it being so accessible where it's like 30 minutes away to go for a ski, or 5 minutes to go for a swim, and also probably having a lot of multi-discipline athletes over here that do it as well. You realize you've got guys like Braden Curry that can run a 67-minute half marathon off running a couple of Ks per week, but he swims and bikes and stuff. So I think being around those athletes and having access to that type of stuff, but also going through the hardship, like you said, it's like, yeah, it allows you to reach that next level of performance, but also allows you to spend more time in the sport. So I think, I was getting those signs that, hey, if you keep going down this path, you're not going to last much longer. So you make a change now, or you get another year running hard and not listening to your body, and then you retire, and you go out for a leisurely walk around the block.
That's it, eh? Yeah, get the slippers on. Let's go.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
yeah, man. Well, that's no, that's so cool because yeah, like I said, it's awesome to see that change for the positive and for the benefit in you, especially as like a friend. And now, coming into the current your current era and your current time now, like you've just gone over to Korea and Japan and stuff like that. You did a couple races over there. I mean, you even had one race over there where you had a little bit of a DNF, right?
mm,
And so you
mm,
came off some good fitness, some good training. You were being caught, you were excited, you were, feeling fit, and then all of a sudden
yeah,
it's like boom, right?
yeah.
Like wall. What is that?
Wow.
Do?
Yeah. I think it's just the nature of the sport, and I think I've handled that a lot better than what I would have in the past. So,
Hmm.
funnily enough, I've only ever DNF two races, and they've probably come in the last year, which is interesting because I have been listening to my body more than ever. But I think that's just the nature of the sport as well, and travel. So I think having access again to like athletes over here, but also competing on that national level, you do real international level. Sorry, you do realize that not every race is going to go perfectly for you. And I came across to that first race in Japan. Great fitness. I'd been training really well. Left a little bit early. Went over there, and from what I can understand of the situation, I picked up a virus on the plane. as well as not having access to the same foods that I would have back home. So I was probably under eating a little bit leading into that race, and yeah, just ended up with heat stroke, which was like yeah, just such a low when you've come from the high of putting in a great training block. You've got the opportunity of lining up against some of the world's best, and you put up a performance that like you just like somewhat embarrassed about, but also just disappointed. So I think having other athletes around there at the time and having that support, and also kind of going through those tougher times previously, and maybe that DNF the couple of months prior to that as well, I realized that hey, this is just like part of the journey, and just like put your body first, give yourself a bit of time to recover. And the race that ended up being after that was probably one of my best races I've had in years as well. So the highs and lows of the sport are there, and you can't always just be up here and having the best races. You just stick with it and listen to the body, and you'll know you'll have a good one.
And I think that's where something that like every athlete, no matter where you are, can really relate to, like from the injury to the DNF. And when those moments happen, right, when we spend all this time and invest all this time into the sport, because even, mid packers, back to packers, whatever, they're investing time to be there and to do that, right? And then you have this event and it doesn't go to plan. And all of a sudden, you think that question of like, oh, why are we doing this? Why do I put my body through this? What's going on? But you still show up still showed up to that next race, to that next thing,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah.
It's almost like, starting to maybe take the hand off the panic button a little bit
Yeah.
more.
Agree. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great way to put it, because I think it might be part of the mindset, and it might be part of my personality to put that pressure on yourself to be like, cool, I'm done the work, I'm going to perform at this race. So it hurts a lot more when that doesn't happen.
Mm.
But like, and maybe I didn't have too much of that in my early career. I just like luckily kind of got through it, and maybe that was being a little bit younger, or just pure luck, to be honest. But yeah, having those moments where it doesn't always go to plan, but you keep tying your shoes. You get out the door, you listen to your body, and another good one will come. In time. So
Is
I
there
think
any
they're just lessons. Yeah, they're lessons that you learn along the way. Yeah.
is there anything you come back to in those moments to bring you back away from the DNF or the how long it took you in the race or whatever it is, that helps you get back on track to just doing the thing that you love to do? Is there anything specific, or is it more just, just go do what I do, get out in the mountains again?
No, I think like yeah, it used to probably just be like like just move on and get back in the mountains. You'll have a great race at the next one. But I think like there's been a number of things like becoming a father as well. You realize the bigger picture, that it's not just about you as well. So I think realizing that there's a lot more to life than just performing at a race was really important. I think like I do journal a little bit, and I reflect a little bit, which helps, for me just to write down my thoughts and stuff post race. And I think once you write it down and you get it out on paper, it's just a really good way to reflect on, maybe why that day didn't go to plan. And it's good to look back on as well. But also just like, having a supportive network as well. So, there's multiple athletes that had great races there, and their first thing they were doing was checking in to see how I was as well. So I think that for me felt pretty special, and also the opportunity, like, which I tell a lot of people, like the opportunity that you get to stand on that start line is massive, right? Like that's probably the biggest thing, that I got to be there, and I got to start the race, and it was kind of taken out of my control. What am I going to do? Like I have heat stroke, like I couldn't have done anything better. But yeah, like for me, I think the journaling side of things, like writing, reflecting, and just having a think about it, has helped me a lot, rather than just bottling up in my head and just like, it becoming like, oh, the reason why that happened is because of this. Maybe it just wasn't your day. So yeah, the reflection is definitely helped me a lot.
I think I learned this term, and I might be completely wrong in it. It's the idea of metacognition. It's
Mm,
the ability
mm,
to think about what
yep,
you're thinking about,
yep,
right?
yep.
And it's actually something that is a skill that you can refine over time, like anything,
Mm-hmm.
right? The more you start, analyzing your constant thoughts, like for you through your journaling, through your writing, right? Oh, there's a thought I had. Why did I think that way? That's that idea of metacognition coming to life. And that's where you can really pull apart, why the decisions you're making, why you're making them, what impact are they actually having on your life? It's almost like stepping out and taking the back seat, position to
Yeah,
what you're actually doing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And I think that's like what you're saying there is a powerful tool, and you can obviously see the difference it's making in your life, right? And that's
sure,
something
yeah.
that everyone can do, right? The ability to start thinking about the decisions that they're making in their life is a skill, and I think we've all gone through that point where we were kind of just letting the world take us in a direction, and then we
Yeah.
started stopping and thinking, why am I thinking that way? Why am I doing it, right? How can I do it a different way? And that's cool. What I'd love for you to do now, though, man, is
Mm.
share with me. We're now at kind of like presently in time.
Yeah.
Tell me principles that you currently live by. They might change in the future, but what are the things in Liam's time right now,
Mm.
week to week? Like if you were to distill the way you live, the way you function, what are, 2 to 3 principles that you're just kind of living by right now that are helping you be happy and enjoy the life around you?
Mm. Yeah, that's a great question. I think like principles for me is just like, making the most of the opportunities I have. And I think like foremost to that is like I get to live in an amazing place and, I do have a lot of things on offer here as well. So, the opportunity to be able to get out the door, no matter where it is, like it doesn't even matter if you're not living in a town like this, but having the opportunity to get outside is first and foremost, like one of the greatest principles and opportunities, I could say that you get. So for me, it's just like, showing up for myself and my family. And that for me is, like I come back to it, like the mental health for me to go out and go for an hour run of a morning, I'm just a better human for, my family as well. So I think by me putting myself first, I'm putting them first at the same time as well. So I probably said a few principles in that one sentence, but yeah, I think just like show up for yourself, and you'll be showing up for others as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And what's the one biggest mental shift? The thing where it's like you thought this way and now
Mm.
you're like, that's ridiculous. Why did I ever think that way? This is now like my current. What has been the biggest like mental shift that you thought has brought you so much more happiness and fulfillment
Mm.
and enjoyment in your life?
Yeah. I think for me, like, always chasing success has always been the goal, of like chasing success in the trail running, chasing success in the obstacle course racing, whatever I'm doing, business, rah, rah. But I think what I keep coming back to is, just the journey itself. So, um, if someone was to ask me, you got two options. You get to, have the most successful racing career, and at the end, you don't get to go running, and you don't get to go on these adventures and do all this stuff, or you specifically got to do these events per year that you might not want to do. For me, it's the journey. So, like I always thought it'd be the success and being up on the podiums and the pedestals, and maybe the sponsorships that came along the way. But I think the opportunities and the adventures that I've got to have along the way and the people I've met, like yourself, that never would have been the case. And pretty much all my friends I've met through training and adventures. And I think, that for me, I just keep coming back to that as probably being the best moments and opportunities that I've got to have, is just like spending time with those people outside, and the friendships I've made. And like I said, if it was like, if you were to take all the podiums and medals away, sweet, whatever, like in the end, they sit in the garage, so, I think more of the moments, the mountains that we've done together, again, the people I've met, just the communities I've been able to be a part of and accepted into. And I think in turn with that, it's like, you are, uh, you know, maybe not quite mentor's the right word, but you are an example for, your children as well, that, you get out and you're a part of, and networks like that and communities like that. And, you make the most of, your days by getting outside and doing something. Yeah.
So it sounds like your definition of success has been that big shift there,
I
right?
think so.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, 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 yeah. What I would have thought, maybe, standing number one on podiums has changed to no. It's the people I've got to meet and the adventures and the opportunities. Yeah, probably a hard one to meet on the podcast as well. Like having the opportunity to race internationally and being a part of the Merrill team and stuff, which is amazing. But I think the best way it was described to me was, we work in seasons in life, and you can't be the best father, the best business owner, the best athlete all at the same time. So I think for me, like leaning into that a little bit, where it's like, oh, I'm going to come home and spend a lot more time with my daughter, or I'm going to, make the most of these opportunities, at the end of summer before winter comes and stuff like that. Like, I think like leaning into, the seasons of life has also probably been a very powerful switch for me as well.
Yeah. It's that idea of like, I don't know if you've heard like the four burners idea, right? You only
Yes.
have
Yeah.
so much gas to turn so many burners on, and you can't turn them all on at the same time, cranked full, right?
Yeah.
So you have a certain burner on, right? And then you need to switch it off and balance it and prioritize. And yeah, man, that's it.
For many years, I had all those burners
Yeah.
full blast, just out of control, and just thinking I was handling it. And I think a lot of the time you tell yourself you're handling it, and people around you are supportive, and sometimes they might not tell you that you aren't handling it as well. So I
Yeah.
think like self-reflection for me, and maybe that comes back down to the journaling and the the reflection of a lot of periods that I've had in my career and life. I think I realized that, like you said, a few of those burners going at once wasn't probably the most positive path, for me and everyone around me as well.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thanks for those little yeah, be some great little takeaways. I guess now, man, what's what's the mountain you're climbing now?
Well, great one that. So I've actually lent.
Literally and metaphorically.
I think I've lent, quite heavily into the cross training side of things. So right now, this will be my second year of, competing in skimo racing, which anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's ski mountaineering. So basically skiing uphill, downhill, bit of boot packing, stuff like that. And that's been a whole new sport for me to learn as well. And it's been extremely humbling as well, because I do have the fitness for the up, but, got to build the skill set over the down and stuff as well. So yeah, for me, leaning into the seasons of winter and spending a little bit more time on that. And also, yeah, just spending a little bit more time with the family as well. I think, yeah, what's next? It's a hard one for me to answer. I think rather than planning out my whole year, I kind of like to go more on, how's the body feeling, what opportunities are there, and do they fit with what I'm currently doing now? So that kind of puts a little less pressure on myself and probably everyone around me as well. So if the training's going well and the body's feeling good, and it works, for the family, then I'll work towards, a race that might be coming up. But yeah, it's just kind of maybe leaning a little bit heavier into listening to the body and letting the body do the talking as well.
So is there anything that you're mentally chasing right now within training that isn't like a win at a race or a new time or anything like
Yeah, like in terms of the running side of things, I would say like it's just creating more connection with people as well. So I definitely have found that I'm a person that flourishes, around community and around a lot of people as well. Like I don't do too well when I'm locked inside, maybe being a little bit more introvert. And that's what I've realized from being away for races, internationally as well. Sometimes there's a lot of time in the hotels and, a lot of time by yourself. So for me, yeah, leaning a little bit more into making the most of those opportunities as well, and not putting too much of a focus in a structured training phase. Yes, that is part of getting ready for a race, but probably more so look at it from the point of, okay, if I do have a race on the horizon, I'll lean into a training block for that. But for now, I'm just gonna make the most of the social opportunities I have. And yeah, from the skiing side of things, I'm just loving learning a new sport as well. And I've got not older, but slightly older mentors than me that are kind of helping me with that side of things as well. And it's exciting to, it's a dream, but the dream of potentially maybe working towards, the Olympics would be awesome, but we're a long way from that now as well. So right now, just enjoying the current phase of life and the opportunities we get.
Yeah. Is there anything that scares you moving forward in this world of success and training and drive? Is there anything in your head that, puts you on edge or maybe makes you a little bit fearful of what could come from it or anything like that? Or is it just pure enjoyment in the process and getting out there? That's...
Yeah, I think it's just the process. Like I just love the process of whether it's training for a race, whether it's building your fitness. Like for me, and a lot of runners or a lot of people in sport can probably relate to this, like that flow state of being able to get out the door and go for a run for 2 hours and it just flies away. Like you're just out there, you're in the moment, you're just experiencing everything that's going on. Like for me, that's the feeling. I'm not so chasing, but that's the feeling, or that I guess that's the opportunity that I want my body to be able to have. And I think that's probably taking me away a little bit from racing like an entire race calendar, and maybe just pulling that back to some important races. But yeah, just like the opportunity, and I think this has come from a lot of injuries, like of being on the back seat. It's like I just want to be able to go outside and go for a run on any given day. I just want to be able to go out and go for a ski on any given day, and my body feel good. So I think like any steps I need to mitigate to make sure that I don't get in a point where I'm unable to do that is kind of where I'm at the moment for sure. Yep.
Questions.
Yep.
So there was a couple questions that some people had for you.
Oh
Just
yeah, that's a good one.
finalize it and wrap it all up.
Yep.
One of them being, how has your life changed mentally and physically since moving to Wanaka?
Mentally and physically. Okay, that is a great one. I would say initially, physically, I was putting more strain and stress on my body just due to the access of the mountains. Like, look in any direction where we are, there's a 1,000 meter peak, an average grading in a 15%. And I think like the excitement of being in a new town put a lot of load on my body early. So I would say over my period of living here, which is, close to 2 years now, I've learnt that yes, we have all this stuff on offer, but you still need to manage your load and your recovery as well. So it's funny just quickly to think about, because we have a local Roy's Peak on the Friday, and it was getting to the point where, and this is not just myself, this is multiple different people. Oh, I'll just go up Roy's easy. And it's like, up Roy's Peak easy. When you think about that, it's still a 7 kilometer climb with 1,200 meters of vertical ascent and descent. So, last year I think I did it 40 times, and I probably got away with it for most part. But now I guess I'm respecting, the terrain we have, but also, the load that it takes on my body. I just keep learning, about the load. So that's the answer in terms of that. And what was the second part of that question? Sorry.
It was just how has your life changed mentally and physically?
Yeah.
So mentally would be the other side of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think mentally, like I'm just mind blown. Like I like every time I go out and spend some time in the mountains, I'm just constantly mind blown of where I am and what I get to do. And, again, I just keep coming back to that, make the most of the opportunity. And, whether that's scaling up Mount Aspiring or, running up Roy's Peak, mentally, I'm just like so grateful to get to do that. But in terms of, the mental aspect, it's always kind of been the same. It's like, I do it for the enjoyment more than anything. And, it does allow me to be the best version of myself for sure.
Was there any in making this big change of like, hey, we're living in Queensland, we're going to Wanaka, and this was the second question that we have. Was there any like mental battles in making that decision?
I think I'm the type of person, and this is the complete opposite to my partner, that once I make a decision, I make it really fast. It's really well thought about, but if it's something that I want to do, I make it quick. So to go over how that move looked, I came across here to look for some housing, and I think it was probably about 4 weeks into my trip, I rang my partner and said, we're moving here. I'm not coming home. So, and that might sound quite harsh to a lot of people, but my partner knows me quite well and knows that I would not make that decision unless it was the best for all of us. And I think, the opportunity that my daughter gets to be able to go up the ski hill and, all the friends she has and all the outdoor opportunities and stuff like that, that was first and foremost in my brain. But also I think like, we did a lot of stuff together in Queensland and scaling mountains and stuff like that. But it was kind of, I guess the technical sky running, the scaling up the mountains, the mountaineering. There's not too much of that in Australia as well. So I think once I came over here, I realised that there was more people like me as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Community side of things, like you said, something you're leaning towards now, which is awesome.
huge, huge.
Unreal, brother. Well, hey, absolute pleasure having this chat with you. And
Cool.
yeah, there's going to be some awesome pieces that people are going to be able to take forward with them in their story and their journey and, whatever demons they're battling and taking on. So, yeah, appreciate your time, man. Is there anything you'd like to leave people with?
Um, I guess the best couple of things I could say are, there's a running boom at the moment, and that's exciting for everyone. But just take your time with it. It's probably the biggest lesson I've learned, and I think I've done it quite well up until the period where I was just pushing my body, past what it was capable of doing. Just take your time with it. I think like, the big trend I've seen at the moment is everyone wants to do the marathon, the ultra, the 100K races, and just take a little step back from that. And if that's your goal, that's amazing. But just know that there's a lot more to the journey than, ticking that box off straight away. Your body maybe isn't ready for that type of load and stress. And if I could give anyone any advice, it would just be take your time with the journey. Listen to the signs your body gives you. Have conversations with people that, might be a little bit more experienced than you as well. Like, I know we're both open books as well to anyone getting into running. Feel free to send, me a message and I'll give you as much advice as you want. But yeah, if I could leave anyone with any advice, it's just like, take your time. Running's amazing, amazing thing. And once it gets taken away from you, it is, you realize how grateful you are to get out the door and even just go for like that 20-minute jog. Like it is just like the best feeling, and the connections you get to make, and the dopamine that comes from it and everything else, like it's just, there's no feeling like it. So don't compromise that by just rushing your journey to get to the finish line.
Man, couldn't have said it better myself. Appreciate that. If anyone wants to reach out and have more chats with you, how could they get a hold of you?
Yeah, so on social media, Lee McKenzie. If you're not following me, give me a follow and just send me a message on there. Again, I'm happy to answer any questions. I do get a lot of messages from Australians coming across to Wanaka. Where do I go running? And I have to really break down that question and ask them exactly what they want to do, because there's so many spots here. So if you are traveling across to the South Island, New Zealand, and you want any tips where to run, feel free to send me a message. If you are coming over here as well and want to see if I'm free for a jog, that's also reach out. I love meeting new people and connecting with new people as well. So that's probably the best place to reach me. And yeah, always happy to have a chat with anyone.
And you are a coach as well, right? So, if you,
Yeah, running coach, like yourself. So yeah, if you're interested, in doing any coaching, and Quinton's not your maybe your first pick, just feel free to send me a message. I'm always happy to help anyone on any part of their journey. as long as you're committed. Yeah, you got to be committed. I'm going to say that now. If you're committed to the process and being the best version of yourself, I'm your coach. If you want to get ready for a marathon in 4 weeks, I'm not your coach. So
I love that. You got to be honest and transparent. That's the way to do it. Unreal, man. Coolio. Well, have a fantastic day with the fam in Wanaka, and we'll chat soon.
beautiful. Thanks, mate. Thanks for the opportunity.
See you, man.
Catch ya.
And we're back. That was my chat with Liam McKenzie. Always great to dive a little bit deeper into what makes some awesome people tick. And I really enjoyed that chat. I hope you did too. We've got some amazing guests still to come. So if you enjoyed, please like, subscribe, and we'll see you at the next one. Happy trails.